Welcome back to the den for Rambles, Rants, Razors. Come on, man. Episode 5, Part 2, Reviews, Affiliate Codes, and Freebies. I cut the last one short because it just went way too long. And unbeknownst to me at the time, this actually worked out really perfect because Seek Solo and Ben, aka Soap Thing, had done a podcast around this topic of freebies and affiliate codes. Put a link in the description. Seek is a friend of mine. I don't know Ben very well, but I love his content and the podcasts and interviews that he's been doing with content creators and vendors and artisans in the community have been great stuff. Absolutely amazing. For me, I don't do affiliate codes because one, I don't want money to influence my opinion. I'll never say never to affiliate codes. I learned a long time ago to never say never. I don't do them because I don't want money to influence subconsciously or even consciously my opinion of something. And just as important, if not more important, I don't want people to think that I'm saying something about a product just so they will buy it, so that I will personally profit from it. I've been watching YouTube shave videos for nearly 10 years. Not quite, but almost a decade. I have watched guys change to where I watch them for a couple of years and then the money takes hold. And you can actually go back and watch like their older videos and then see how things start changing as they go forward. Right now, if I was to do affiliate codes, it really wouldn't amount to a whole lot. If I did them with PAA, I might make some money. If I did them with Wet Shaving Store, I might make a little bit of money as well. But it's really not going to be much. If I got to be bigger, like a Ken Surfs or somebody like that, it might be enough money to where it would influence my opinion. Freebies, on the other hand, are different. But here's where I don't like the term freebie, because for at least for me and the way that I do reviews of free products, okay, some guys, they get into creating content, and your mileage may vary. I support everyone and the way that they do things. I'm a good old boy, in his mid 40s, and so I'm going to do things differently than you. Not only is that a photograph of Ronald Reagan, it's an autographed photograph of Ronald Reagan. I get that you probably don't have one in your house. I get that you probably see things differently. And I support that. As long as you're not hurting innocent people, I support whatever you do. But sometimes people get into creating content just so they can get free stuff. I never got into it for that because there was nothing that I really needed. When I started creating content almost a year ago, I already had over 150 soaps. I already had several hundred razors. I already had, 60, 70 brushes. I'm now up just over 80, I think, and I just ordered another one. So there's really nothing that I needed. That was not my motivation for doing it. My motivation is what I've talked about many times in my videos, and a big part of that is doing what I love. But the word freebie, for me, and the way that I do things, it's kind of irritating. Time is money, and money is time. I work for a living, 40 hours a week, sometimes more. My time, and especially the older I get, the more valuable my time is. When I do a review, Thought Forms and Enlightener Well are the two most recent ones that I've done. Each one of those videos, and I still have to do I don't have to do, I get to do. Just like I get to go to work, I don't have to go to work. I still need to do the Thought Forms outdoor video. And as of the recording of this, I'm doing that tomorrow morning. With each review like these two here, I put 4 to 6 hours of work into the content, creating it, doing background research, writing down bullet points. I don't write notes, I just write bullet points. Like behind the camera right now, there's bullet points, and that's just to keep me on task and presenting to you guys in a timely manner, as much as I can, the content that I want to present to you. And so I'll be honest and transparent. I make just over $30 an hour. I have an amazing benefits package. Most benefit packages, good ones, are about 30% of your wage. Mine's actually a little bit better than that. It's actually about 37%. It's one of the benefits of working for the state. So for argument's sake, let's say with benefits included, because benefits are part of your wage, and you need to think of it like that if you don't already think of it like that. I make roughly $40 an hour. So it's just for simple math argument, let's call it $40 an hour. And let's say I only put 3 hours into a video. That means I just paid $120 for this free soap. That doesn't include the gas that it takes me to drive out into Timbuktu. That doesn't include the time or the effort that it takes to get in and out of these places. And sometimes I even have to pay to park. You know, there's a day use fee. Like the one that I did for Allura, where we went, I had to pay to park. So $120 is a low ballpark figure. These are not free. That's not why I do them. I'm not doing these reviews for free crap. Stuff like this is super cool because I'm getting a nod of the cap from artisans who appreciate what I do, respect what I do, and value what I do and my time and effort that I put into it. Over the 10 years of watching YouTube videos, I've seen all different types of content. And one of the things I've shared with multiple guys who are content creators, newer guys, is you got to have an angle. There's a whole bunch of dudes that are just standing in their bathroom shaving. You have to bring something different to the table. I have just, all I've done is taken two of my favorite hobbies and put them together. I love the outdoors, I love going hiking, and I love shaving. So here's the kicker. While I'm paying $120 or more like $200, so you got $400, right? With time is money, money is time. You got $400 for just these two soap sets. Where was I going with that? I figured it out. Even with bullet points, I can get lost in the weeds. I was saying $200, right? Per soap set. Because time is money and money is time. So I don't like the word freebie because I try to bring more to the table, and in doing so, it takes time. There's a lot of guys, and this is where I'm talking about angles, that will just be grabbing a tub of something. Yep, it smells good. I like it. You should like it too. And they don't bother with knowing anything about the fragrance notes or anything like that. And that was something that over the years I became annoyed with. And if I'm watching a content creator and I see that that's his or her approach, I stop watching. If that person doesn't care enough to put effort into creating that content, I don't care enough to continue watching. That's just me. Hopefully, my goal with my content is to do the opposite of that, to present to you the fragrance notes and not just say that they smell good, but to take my love of fragrances. I have almost as many fragrances as I do shaving brushes, maybe more. I have a lot. I love fragrances. I love fragrances so much that our daughter has become a frag head. My wife has become even more of a fragrance lover as a result of me loving fragrances. Love is contagious. Passion is contagious. And I try and bring my passion to these videos. So since Ben and Sieg were just talking about this, I'm going to use them as another example. And angles. Ben, Soap Thing, he has brought a great angle. His podcasts are amazing, and he's doing great quality production value podcasts. Sieg is an individual. He brings his own style to it, and part of it is because of where he lives and his culture and his society and how he's grown up there in Greenland. And because of it, he brings a different angle, a different approach to it. Even though he's in his bathroom, I'm not saying you got to be outside or you got to be in a den or do things like I'm doing, but in order to be successful, a successful content creator, you have to bring your personality with you. If I looked like the lady on my shirt, this is from ESP, Phoenix Shavings, where I got the shirt, I paid for it. It goes with that. Excuse me. If I looked like her, I could just stand here and I'd have millions of views, right? Shake my tatas. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. But I don't look like her. You probably don't look like her. And if you do, what's your snap? Don't tell my wife. Snap. Gotta bring something to the table. I don't like the word freebie. Because the way I do things, it's not free. Covered that, right? There's a lot of guys too who will say well of things just because they want more free stuff. Here's my thing. And somewhere where I think a lot of reviewers, not just in our community, but elsewhere, get lost. Their goal is to tell you why they like something. For me, what I want in a review is for the reviewer, in this case me, to share with the viewer why you might like something. So when I'm doing my reviews, and I feel like looking back, watching Enlightener well, that I did a pretty good job of showing you why I like Enlightener well and why you might like Enlightener well. I will never tell you that I like something if I don't like it. But I do believe that even if I don't like a fragrance, that I can still do a positive review of it and tell you, the viewer, why you might like it. Okay? I'm a schnerd, hardcore to the max, okay? In this bag right here, it's the little vial samples from PAA, the little ones. In this bag right here are samples of fragrances that I have. Many of these I've purchased after I've already had the soap set. Whole different story, okay? But these are samples of soaps from PAA that I already have. These ones are ones that I already have too, but they're the ones that have the little fancy stickers on it, like that's Hotel Cecil right there. And I showed you the other day the Thought Forms one I have. This is a bag of fragrances from PAA that I want. And yeah, I'm so hardcore and into it that I printed a label for it. Now this next bag used to be slightly bigger, but I believe that I can approach a fragrance because of the way the olfactory and the nerve works with the brain, that a new fragrance, when we first smell it for the first time, isn't what it really smells like. And that's because the way the olfactory nerve and the brain are connecting the dots, okay? I've learned this the hard way. And you've probably heard people say it before, don't give up on a fragrance the first time you use it. Douglas taught me this years ago. The guy, is very much like my guru. He's a friend of mine, just like Phil Decker. And I've learned a lot from both of them. But Doug, years ago, there was a fragrance that I purchased from him. And he said, just put it aside for a couple of months and come back to it. Put it aside for a couple of weeks, come back to it, that kind of thing. Wouldn't you know, he's exactly right. It's the way the brain works. Our nose is basically a warning system. It is to very, primitive warning system to warn us of danger. That's why the olfactory nerve is really there, is to warn us of danger. That's why throughout evolution, why we have it, okay? In this next bag, and I had never planned on sharing this with you guys, but I think the time is probably right. In this bag right here are fragrances that I currently don't want from Phoenix Artisan, but I keep them and I revisit them and I put them either on the back of my hand or on my finger, or I'll put them on the back of my wrist, and throughout the day, I'll smell it. Right now I have Phoenix Lights right here and Thought Forms on this hand, and that's because I've been playing with the two, smelling them for my review tomorrow. Let me find a great example of one. All of these, all these fragrances, even though I love them, they may not be for you. And these fragrances right here, like, I don't own Clown Fruit. Clown Fruit is a fan favorite. I'm not crazy about Clown Fruit. I don't own Clown Fruit. I don't dislike Clown Fruit. Just, it doesn't really speak to me. I do one day want to buy Clown Fruit, and I keep meaning to add it, but there's just so many other things to buy, okay? I do want to one day own Clown Fruit, and Clown Fruit is not in this bag. It just jumped into my mind. The Clown Fruit is actually in the want bag, right there. The Clown Fruit is actually in here. That was just maybe a poor example. Old Salty. A lot of you guys love Old Salty. Porthos. This is probably my second or third. Many of these, I bought more than once. Many, even ones that I currently own. A great example, Immortal Peach. I have one of the old original Immortal Peaches, and it was 2018 or 2020 that Doug redid the fragrance of it. And I bought a couple samples of that new one to experience it, and it is better. I haven't bought the new version of Immortal Peach yet, but it is better. And these artisans, if they have a passion, their fragrances will get better over time. And a great example of that is Sean at MacDuff's. That guy, he's constantly improving his formulas. He's a perfectionist. He's passionate about what he does. So I also have, like, there's Porthos, Rabid Banana. I could give you 10 different reasons why you might like Rabid Banana. I could give you 2 or 3 reasons why, while I enjoy the fragrance, I don't want to buy it and wear it. Gold Label, Doppelganger. This thing was made for royalty, and the fragrance that it's made after is loved all over the world. St. Martin's Land. A lot of you guys love this one. A lot of people are begging for it to come back. Lime Ginger Tea Tree. Just didn't really speak to me. Tricolor. Here's another one, a doppelganger, that is a clone, an exact clone of a very popular fragrance. It's not for me. But I could give you 3 or 4 reasons at the drop of a hat why you might like it. And at the same time, while telling you that's not for me, I could still tell you 2 or 3 reasons easily why I would like it. When I do a review, I'm not telling you why. Well, maybe I have, and if I did, that was a piss poor review. What I want to do with the review is share with you why I think you might like a fragrance. Real quick, and I'll wrap this up. So this rolls into my next thing. Ben, I'm going to pick on you. And Ben, when he said this, it was in jest. It was not meant intentionally. But they were talking about, if you haven't watched the interview with Sieg, you got to. It's really good. You guys did a great job. And I mean that. I've already told Sieg that, Ben. I know I haven't told you. I had a good conversation with Sieg about it. You guys did great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Ben brought up Dead Fish and how I watch a review and the guy talks about how the fragrance is just absolutely amazing. But then you go into the forums or elsewhere and everybody's hating on it. Well, that's the way fragrances go. I'm not saying that that person was telling the truth. I'm not saying that that person wasn't telling the truth. But that's the way fragrances work. I grew up not far from here. Down the street, a immigrant family moved in from Fiji. They ended up being like parents to me. Boss and dad. And if they ever see this, it would be so cool. I run into them still every now and then. And Boss is the wife. That's her name. That's how it translates to English, is Boss. And his name is Dat, D-A-T. They had 2 sons, Alvin and Evan, both right about my age. We became very good friends, and we grew up together. Back before it was a popular thing to do, they had chickens. They would slaughter chickens. When I first started going to their house to visit, their house had a very different smell than what this white ginger, good old apple pie boy is used to. Over the years, walking into their house was like almost like melancholy. It was almost like walking into heaven, because when I first was walking into that house, my nose was going, stranger, stranger danger. There's something new here, Tobin. Look out, look out. And then they were very, about their ways, because they literally, when they moved into that house, it was their first house since leaving Fiji. And, they raised a family there in that house, just a few doors down from where my mom still lives today. I fell in love with that entire family, and I fell in love with her cooking. Oh my God. But in the early days, no, dude, it was very off-putting. And Alvin and Evan even smelled like that house. Most of us actually do smell like our houses. So the dead fish thing also plays into, quite literally, dead fish will smell very good to some people, especially people who make money off the sale or production of dead fish. When I was going to college, when my wife and I were going to college, she worked at Taco Bell. And when she'd come home, she smelled so damn good. To a rancher, my father-in-law, my wife grew up on a ranch. My father-in-law still owns probably 800 heads of cattle. It was more before the pandemic. He might have more than that by now. He's got a big ranch by my standards. When I was first getting to know him over 20 years ago, I had gone to his ranch in Christmas Valley, Oregon, in the middle of Oregon. We call it Central Oregon. I was sitting in the far right seat of this old bench Chevy pickup, and we're driving to where the harvesting was done, the production, the slaughtering. And I had my brother-in-law to my left, and my father-in-law was driving. And I'd only met him once before, and that was at a pizza parlor here in town. And this is the very first time that I was getting to know him and spending the weekend at his house with his daughter, the woman that I'd already been dating for 8 months, a year. And, we were already getting hot and heavy and serious. And so I knew it as soon as he said it, that he was trying to, test me and see what kind of person I was and what I thought of the work that he did, right? Because I'm from the city. And so he's seen a city slicker. I'm a little bit of a city slicker, but not so much. So he says to me as we're approaching it, and there's a smell in the air. Lots of smells in the air. Lots of smells in the air. From manure to feed to you name it. And he says to me, Toby, what does that smell like to you? I immediately said, smells like money. From that moment on, we were good friends. From that moment on, I had his daughter's hand in marriage. And it did. That's the whole time this was the first time I'd ever been like that close and hands-on to a place like that. It was effing cool. And I had some of the best damn beef, and I continue to have some of the best damn beef for years. What we get for Christmas from him is like 30 pounds of just the best beef, sometimes pork and other things that you could ever want. And so to a man like him, the smell of manure, the smell of feed, the smell of carcasses smells like money. and money smells good. That's just the way fragrances work. I've had jobs where I go to work, especially in construction where I was running a mixer. I come home smelling dusty and dirty. My wife was turned on by it. In fact, that fragrance is probably the most attractive fragrance to a woman, is the smell of a dirty man who has just worked his ass off to put food on the table. Wrap this up real quick and get real too again with you. There's the shave hobby and there's the shave industry. And we as content creators should be very careful how we conflate the two. And even as just members of the community, which I was for almost 10 years before I started doing content, we should never conflate the two. Money is money, play is play, okay? Douglas Smythe, I'm going to pick on him again. He's a friend of mine. So for me, he's a fair target. And since you guys see me review his stuff, Doug has a handful of people and always has had a handful of people that he sends items to review. And I guarantee you, I've never had this conversation with him. I'm speculating. He doesn't sit back and say, oh, I'm going to send this to so-and-so because they're going to say nice things about my product. That's not what he does. What he does is much more methodical, if that would be the right word, much more thought out, much more planned. So I've given this some thought. If you look at the people that he's currently sending things to review, it's a business. And like I said, don't conflate the hobby with the industry. Business is business. Mark Zarady, Ken Surfs, Subi Shaves, Greg Tardif, Greg, and myself. If I left out anyone, I apologize. But us five, the last year or so, is who Doug has been routinely sending things to. I've gone way too long already. I apologize. But all of us, while we have things in common, we're very, very different. And that is brilliant in Doug's design because these different personalities will speak to different viewers. He's not sending it to him like, oh, well, I know Mark's going to say nice things. Mark's a nice guy. He's probably going to say nice things. Same thing with Ken. Same thing with Subi and Greg. And I just say whatever the hell I feel like saying. Everybody knows that, right? Or I hope you know that by now. I'm going to say what I mean and mean what I say. I've raised my kids with that. I've said that to my kids 1 billion times. Say what you mean and mean what you say. That's the fastest way to earn my respect, is someone who speaks their mind. It doesn't mean that I have to agree with them. It doesn't even mean that they have to be right. I would much rather be loved. How's that saying go? I don't want to be loved for who I am not. I would rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not. That's the saying. I would rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not. That's my rant. That's my ramble. If you're still watching, thank you. I think I did a good job. I feel pretty good about this. Either way, I'm going to put it out there in front of you. And hey, there's that song, Different Strokes, Different Folks, that theme song, that TV show. I grew up on it. Now the world don't march to the beat of just one drum. What might work for you might not work for some. Now a man is born, he's a man with means. Take care. I'll see you guys tomorrow with a review of Thought Forms.